Hey, it's been a while since I've done my last video, mostly because I am just so out of time. It's been pretty rough last couple of weeks. Just been adjusting to a new schedule at work, got a new position, and it's doing good. So better than most people, so I can't complain. However, I did want to talk about a book that I read, a graphic novel, technically, called Mr. Miracle by Tom King and art by Mitch Gerrits. It's a fantastic comic book. I have written about it a couple times in the past. The thing that struck me about wanting to make this video is that for the first time I was able to read Tom King's introduction to the story. And what's interesting is that a lot of what he was overwhelmed with in 2016 is what I was overwhelmed with in 2016. And if you don't know Tom King's backstory, he saw 9/11 happen. It encouraged him to join the military, which he did. And after joining the military, he worked in the CIA and was doing a bunch of stuff in Afghanistan. There's another book that he wrote called The Sheriff of Babylon, which essentially is a semi-autobiographical version of his story over there and deals with trauma and that kind of thing. However, Mr. Miracle, contrary to what I thought, is totally different. It's all about Mr. Miracle, who is a creation of Jack Kirby and the Fourth World universe that he made when he defected from Marvel to DC in the 70s. And Mr. Miracle, to give you some backstory, is a son of a good, father of this one planet, and then there's this other planet called Apocalypse. So Apocalypse, New Genesis. The two kings, High Father of New Genesis and Dark Side of Apocalypse, exchange sons in an effort to have a truce. So Mr. Miracle is the son of High Father. Darkseid has no interest in raising a son, so he casts scot-free down to the depths of the pits of Apocalypse, and scot-free eventually escapes and becomes this DC superhero. He's an escape artist, all those kinds of things. But I digress. The story itself is really interesting, and I'll give you a gist of what it's kind of like to read by reading Tom King's introduction. Tom King said, April 2016, it was my wife's birthday and we were at dinner with the kids and everything was going well. So well, and I was dying. My chest exploded. The world started inching black. I reached for my oldest and hugged him close and said, I was sorry that it had to be like this, that it had to be in front of him. I was so sorry. Later, in the hospital, I told them I was either really sick or really crazy. I hoped I was crazy. You can come back from crazy. I prayed to God I was crazy. They did a lot of tests. Yeah, they said, you're crazy. Thank God, I said. And I went home and tried to figure out what the hell was going on. To get better, I did the things people do to get better. And everything was going well. So well, and the world went wrong. People everywhere were acting the way people everywhere shouldn't ever act. Rules that we assumed governed our behaviors were abandoned with ease and often pleasure. The astounding became casual. the casual became caustic. The world was either really sick or really crazy, and I hoped it was crazy. We can come back from crazy. I prayed to God it was crazy. Then I started writing Mr. Miracle. And essentially, you know, from this panic attack, which I can relate with really well because I myself had a panic attack about 7 years ago, and ever since my life has been turned upside down. But what's interesting, though, is that I had no idea that that was the subtext of going into Mr. Miracle. And there's a scene at the end of the book, and it doesn't really, you know, ruin any plot points or anything, but, you know, Mr. Miracle throughout the book sees this perfect world. He sees this other universe, which is hinting at, you know, the regular continuity of DC. So this essentially takes place out of continuity. He sees these characters who are together. They have all their emotions in order and everything. But Scott Free, who yearns for that, decides to walk away from it. He has the opportunity to join this prime universe. And what's really interesting is that he doesn't, and he stays. Because to him, a life that is imperfect but potent with meaning and struggle is better than a life that is perfectly pure and even blasé, because he knows that whatever happens, somebody in tights is going to come down and save the day. So anyways, this book meant a lot to me. I think it will mean a lot to you. I highly recommend reading it. I do not I do not like that DC is doing this new thing where they do all of their printing on this kind of Supro newsprint whatever, but it's got a lot of really good extras in it, and that is enough for me to justify the price. I have an original hardcover that actually still has the gloss pages. This one has the newspaper matte. So whatever, best of both worlds, I guess. So anyways, I highly recommend it. It's on Amazon, your local comic book store. Definitely check it out.